Men will lie to your face before they ever admit they like you. That is just how it works. They will act like everything is totally normal, like they are completely fine, like you are just some person they happen to know, and women have been trying to figure this out forever. Reading into texts, asking their friends, going over the same conversation in their head 20 times trying to find the answer. But here is what nobody ever actually tells you. While he is busy trying to control what he says, 4 parts of his body are completely giving him away right there in front of you, every single time. And once you know what those 4 parts are, you will never have to sit there wondering if he likes you again, not once. And this is the part that really gets me, because women are not bad at reading people. They are actually really good at it, but they have been taught to look in the wrong place. They have been told to listen to what he says, watch if he calls, see if he follows through. And sure, those things matter, but words are the most controlled thing that comes out of a person. A man can think about what to say before he says it. He can keep his voice steady, he can choose his words carefully, but his body does not get that choice. His body just does what it does. And it does it in ways that go so deep, so far back in human biology, that no amount of playing it cool on the outside can stop it. Dr. Albert Mehrabian's research on how people communicate found that only 7% of what someone is really saying actually comes from their words. 7%. Everything else is coming through how they move, how they hold themselves, where they point their body, what their hands do without them thinking about it. Which means when a man is standing in front of you acting like he feels absolutely nothing, his body is somewhere in the other 93% telling you the complete opposite. And I want to be honest with you here, because I think you deserve that. As a man, I have personally done every single one of the things I am about to walk you through. I had no idea I was doing them at the time. That is exactly the point. These are not things men plan. They are not signals men send on purpose to let you know they are interested. They are just what the body does when real feelings show up. And the man himself is either too nervous to say anything or just not ready to go there yet. And when I learned about all of this and looked back at certain conversations I had with women I really liked, I was honestly a little embarrassed because looking back, I was so obvious. She could probably see the whole thing playing out in real time. And after this video, you will be able to see it too. So let's get into the first one. And I want to say this before we dive in. This first signal alone is worth your full attention because once you see it, you are going to start noticing it everywhere. We are talking about his eyes, not just the fact that he looks at you, because that part everybody already knows. What I am talking about is something much more specific than that. Something that happens in the eyes that a man genuinely cannot control no matter what, and that is his pupils. When a man is genuinely drawn to someone, his pupils get bigger. They actually expand. Right there in the middle of his eye, the dark circle in the center grows larger, and there is nothing he can do about it. It is run entirely by his nervous system, the part of the body that handles all the things you never consciously decide to do, like your heartbeat or the way your stomach drops when something scares you. His brain registers that you are someone it finds attractive, and it immediately sends a signal that says more light, take in more of this, and the pupil opens up to do exactly that. Eckhard Hess, a scientist who spent years researching how the eyes respond to things people find appealing, found that pupil size increases significantly when a person is looking at something or someone they are genuinely attracted to. The increase was not small either. It was noticeable. And the most important part of what he found was that this response cannot be faked and cannot be stopped. You cannot decide to make your pupils bigger. You cannot practice it. You cannot turn it off. It just happens or it does not, which makes it one of the most honest things a human body ever does. Now here is where it gets even more interesting. The pupil response does not just happen once and go away. It stays active the entire time he is around you if the attraction is real. So if you are in a conversation with a man and you notice his eyes look unusually dark or deep, that is not a trick of the light. That is his nervous system doing something it does not ask permission for. The tricky part is that you need decent lighting to see this properly. In a dimly lit place, everyone's pupils are bigger because that is just how eyes work in the dark. But in normal light, in a coffee shop, in an office, walking outside during the day, if his pupils look noticeably large when he is looking at you, that is not nothing. That is actually something very real happening inside him that he has zero control over. And I will share something here that makes this hit a little differently. A close friend of mine was seeing this guy for a few weeks, and she kept going back and forth on whether he actually liked her or was just being friendly. She described him as hard to read. Like, she genuinely could not tell. One afternoon, they were sitting together near a window, and she noticed that every single time he looked at her directly, his eyes looked almost completely dark. She did not know what that meant at the time. She just thought he had pretty eyes. It was only later, after she learned about the pupil response, that she went back to that memory and completely understood what she had been looking at. He was not hard to read at all. His eyes had been telling her everything the whole time. They ended up together. And she says now that she thinks about his eyes in that moment all the time. But the pupils are just the beginning, because the second signal moves from the eyes down to a part of the body that most women never think to watch. And this one is going to make you think about every man you have ever been around, because once you know this, you will realize how many times you have already seen it without knowing what you were seeing. We are talking about his feet, specifically where they point when he is standing near you or sitting across from you. Joe Navarro spent 25 years working as a behavioral analyst for the FBI. His entire job was reading people who were actively trying not to be read. People who had every reason in the world to hide what they were really thinking and feeling. And one of the things he came back to again and again in his work was the feet. He said that the feet are the most honest part of the human body. Not the face, not the hands, the feet. Because people learn over time to manage their expressions. They practice keeping a straight face. They learn to make eye contact even when they are uncomfortable. They get good at nodding and smiling at the right moments. But almost nobody ever thinks about their feet. Nobody practices controlling their feet. So the feet just go wherever the person actually wants to be. When a man likes you, his feet will point toward you. It does not matter if he is standing in a group of people at a party and talking to someone else entirely. It does not matter if his face is turned in a different direction. His feet will be aimed at you like they made a decision all by themselves. Because in a way, they did. His body has decided where it wants to go, and the feet are just following that decision honestly while the rest of him is busy trying to act casual. And if you are sitting across from each other and his feet are under the table, watch his knees instead. They will lean in your direction. Same signal, slightly different part of the body, same meaning underneath it all. Now flip it around and the signal becomes just as clear in the opposite direction. If a man is talking to you and his feet are pointed away toward the door, toward somewhere else in the room, that is his body telling you he is looking for an exit, even if his words are perfectly polite and friendly. It is not personal, it is just honest. The body always goes toward what it wants and away from what it does not. And the feet are just the most truthful part of the whole system because nobody ever taught them to lie. I actually caught myself doing this once in a way that was honestly a little funny in hindsight. I was at a work event, standing in a small group of people, and there was a woman there I had liked for a while. I was not talking to her directly. I was in a conversation with two other people. But a friend of mine who was standing nearby pulled me aside afterward and said, "Do you know that your feet were pointed straight at her the entire time you were standing there?" I had not even noticed. My feet had basically already introduced themselves while I was still pretending I had not seen her walk in. That is how real this signal is. It bypasses everything you think you are in control of. But if the feet surprised you, the third signal is going to stop you completely. Because this one involves something most people write off as a nervous habit or just something people do. And it is actually one of the clearest signs of real attraction that the male body produces. We are talking about his hands touching his face, specifically touching his jaw, his lips, or rubbing the back of his neck when he is around you or talking to you. Here is what is actually happening when a man does this. When genuine attraction is present, the body goes into a mild state of stress. Not bad stress, just the kind that comes with something mattering. His heart beats a little faster, his skin becomes more sensitive, his nervous system is slightly activated because something in his environment is important to him and his body knows it. And one of the most common ways the body naturally tries to calm that activation down is through touch, specifically self-touch. Touching your own face, your own neck, your own jaw produces a small calming response in the nervous system. It is the body's way of quietly trying to bring itself back down to normal when something or someone is making it run a little hot. Dr. Adrian Carter, a behavioral researcher who has studied stress responses in social settings, found that self-touching behaviors increase significantly in people who are experiencing attraction-related stress during conversations. And the key word there is attraction-related. This is not the same as general nervousness, like being nervous before a presentation or anxious in a stressful situation. The body produces this response specifically in the presence of someone it finds genuinely appealing. Which means if a man keeps touching his jaw while you are talking, or rubbing the back of his neck right after you say something, or briefly touching his lips without really thinking about it, his nervous system is basically announcing that you are doing something to him that he has not figured out how to handle yet. And this one I have seen play out so many times in real life that it almost makes me laugh now when I spot it. A good friend of mine was telling me about a guy she had been spending time with. She said he seemed confident enough in general, but every single time she said something that caught him off guard in a good way, like a joke or something a little flirty, he would immediately reach up and rub the back of his neck. Every single time, without fail. She thought maybe it was just a habit he had. But that is the thing about this signal. It feels like a habit. It looks like a habit, but it is not random. It is always tied to a specific trigger. And that trigger is her. His body was responding to her specifically every single time she turned the heat up even slightly, and he had absolutely no idea he was giving himself away with his own hand. She figured it out eventually. And once she did, she started testing it on purpose just to watch it happen, which honestly, fair enough. Now there is one more signal, and I have been saving this one for last because out of all four, this is the one that is the hardest to fake, the easiest to spot once you know it, and the most telling of all when it comes to knowing how deep his feelings actually go. It is bigger than the pupils, more obvious than the feet, more reliable than the self-touch, and it is something he does with his entire upper body without realizing it. We are talking about the way he positions himself toward you, specifically what researchers call fronting, which just means turning the front of his body in your direction. Here is why this matters so much more than it might sound. The front of the human body is where everything important lives. The chest, the stomach, everything the body instinctively protects when it feels threatened or unsafe. Think about what a person does when they feel defensive or closed off in a conversation. They turn sideways, they cross their arms, they angle away. The body naturally puts its less exposed side forward when it does not feel safe. But when a man feels genuinely drawn to someone, the opposite happens. The front of his body opens up toward that person completely. He squares his chest toward you. His shoulders turn to face you directly. His whole upper body orients itself in your direction, like it has found something worth facing fully. Research from the Social Neuroscience Lab at Princeton University found that full frontal body orientation toward another person is one of the strongest non-verbal signs of genuine interest and connection. In the studies they ran, people who were genuinely attracted to the person they were talking to showed this full frontal orientation within the first few minutes of the conversation. People who were not attracted kept their bodies angled, sideways, slightly closed, even when the conversation itself was perfectly pleasant and friendly. The body was honest even when the social situation gave it every reason to just be polite and face forward anyway. And here is what makes this signal even more powerful when you see it in real life. It is not just that he faces you. It is that he faces you even when he does not have to. If he is in a group and he keeps turning his whole chest back toward you, even mid-conversation with someone else, that is not politeness. That is pull. His body keeps coming back to face you because something in him keeps pulling it there. If you are sitting side by side and he turns his whole upper body toward you instead of just turning his head. That is not just engagement. That is the body saying, this person matters to me in a way that goes beyond just having a nice conversation right now. I saw this happen with a friend of mine at a dinner a while back. There were 6 people at the table, and he was sitting a couple of seats down from this woman he had mentioned to me a few times in passing. He was having conversations with people all around the table, totally normal, but every time he talked, every single time, his chest and shoulders were angled toward her. Even when he was technically talking to someone on the complete opposite side, it was like she had some kind of gravity and his upper body just kept falling toward it. I pointed it out to him afterward, and he genuinely did not believe me at first. Then I described it in detail, and he went quiet for a second and said, yeah, I think I really like her. Which, yes, we all already knew. His body had been announcing it for 2 hours straight while he was still trying to decide how he felt. And this is the thing that ties all 4 of these signals together in a way that makes them so much more than just 4 separate little things to watch for. When a man genuinely likes you, these signals do not show up one at a time. They cluster. They show up together, layered on top of each other, all pointing in the same direction at the same time. His pupils are wide when he looks at you. His feet are aimed at you when he is standing nearby. His hand goes to his neck or his jaw right after you say something that gets to him. And his whole chest is turned toward you like you are the only person in the room worth facing. When you see 2 or 3 of these happening at the same time in one conversation, that is not a coincidence. That is a man whose body has already made a very clear decision, even if his mouth has not caught up yet. Dr. Monica Moore, a psychologist who spent years studying attraction signals in real social settings, watching real people in bars and parties and coffee shops, found something that has always stuck with me. She found that the people who were most successful at actually connecting with others were not the loudest or the most obvious or the ones making the biggest moves. They were the ones sending out clusters of small, quiet, consistent signals. Signals that most people around them completely missed. But the right person, the person those signals were aimed at, could feel them even when they could not explain why. And that feeling, that pull you sometimes get around someone before anything has even happened yet, a lot of the time that feeling is real. It is your own body picking up on signals that your brain has not fully processed yet. You were right. You just did not have the language for it yet. So now you do. His pupils getting bigger in decent light when he looks at you, his feet pointing in your direction, even when his attention is technically somewhere else, his hand going to his jaw or the back of his neck right after something you said or did lands differently than he expected, and his whole upper body turning to face you fully, not just his head, not a polite half turn, but his chest and shoulders orienting toward you like you are the thing in the room that matters most to him right now. Those 4 things together are not something a man decides to do. They are not a strategy. They are not him trying to send you a message. They are just what the body does when the heart is already there and the words have not come yet. And now that you know all 4 of them, there is something else worth understanding. Because knowing that he likes you is one thing. That is actually the easier part. The harder part, the part that most people never figure out in time, is knowing what to do with that information. Knowing how to respond to those signals in a way that actually moves things forward instead of letting the moment just sit there and slowly run out of air. Because here is what happens more often than it should. A woman picks up on these signals, she feels something, she knows something is there, and then she waits. She waits for him to say something. She waits for him to make a move. She waits for him to close the gap. And sometimes he does, but sometimes he is just as nervous as she is. Sometimes he is watching her just as carefully, looking for his own signs that it is safe to go there. And if both people are just waiting, that moment, which was so real and so full of possibility, just quietly disappears. And both of them walk away wondering what might have happened if one of them had just done something. That is the conversation worth having next. Not just how to read him, but what to actually do once you have read him correctly. How to respond to those signals in a way that encourages him to move forward without you having to put yourself out there in a way that feels uncomfortable or like too much. And that is something I am going to get into properly because it deserves its own full breakdown. But for right now, the next time you are with a man you are trying to figure out, stop listening so hard to what he is saying. Watch his pupils when the light is good. Watch his feet when he is standing near you. Watch his hand when you say something that catches him. Watch his chest and where it points when he thinks nobody is paying attention. Because he is already telling you exactly how he feels. He has probably been telling you for a while. You just finally know how to hear it.